I do. The first book, Summer on the Bluffs, is becoming a series. I can't say where, but I can tell you that Octavia Spencer's in it, and she's my production partner.
Well, for me, the two moments are connected in a couple of ways, but I decided to become a prosecutor because I saw my uncle in front of me. And I saw that he didn't seem to matter to the police. He didn't seem to matter to prosecutors.
This huge platform on The View, and I just started thinking about giving voice to the voiceless. What some people don't know about me is they know I'm a prosecutor, but I'm from the South Bronx projects. Like, I'm really just a everyday person, and I remember when I was 7, my uncle was in front of me, and our family never talked about it.
Sunny Hostin was no stranger to the spotlight. As a co-host on The View, she'd built a reputation for fearlessly tackling social justice issues, dissecting legal battles, and diving into the latest pop culture drama. Audiences admired her sharp legal mind and trusted her candid opinions. But nothing, and I mean nothing, could have prepared Sunny or her loyal fans for the bombshell that shattered her world: her husband's shocking arrest in a massive Rico investigation. It all started as a faint whisper, rumors swirling that police had raided offices linked to her husband's business empire. Whispers quickly turned into a deafening roar. By the next morning, his name was splashed across every headline. Accusations of racketeering, financial fraud, and deep-rooted corruption flooded the media. Official details? Scarce. But the media frenzy? Absolutely merciless. Paparazzi cameras caught every moment, her husband being led away in handcuffs, the cold glare of flashing lights, and reporters chanting "organized scheme" like it was scripted. Every news outlet seemed locked in on one narrative, turning this into a media feeding frenzy. And then, the unthinkable happened. Reports leaked that The View producers were reconsidering Sunny's spot on the show. Could her career be collateral damage in this scandal? The public was split. Some were outraged, insisting it was beyond unfair to punish Sunny for crimes she wasn't even accused of. Her professional record was spotless. But others argued that being a public figure meant she couldn't escape the fallout. Her high-profile status made her an easy target in the court of public opinion. Sunny, known for facing controversy head-on, suddenly found herself in the eye of a media storm she couldn't control. Overnight, she wasn't just reporting on scandals. She was the scandal. At first glance, Sunny Hostin seemed unshaken on air. She wore her usual polished smile, but viewers could tell something was off. That confident glow had dimmed, her smile tight, her eyes distant. Her co-hosts? They practically tiptoed around her, carefully steering clear of the explosive scandal brewing just beyond the studio walls. Segments that once buzzed with energy over politics and celebrity gossip now felt heavy, laced with an awkward tension that was impossible to ignore. Behind the scenes, whispers grew louder. Network executives were reportedly panicking, scrambling to manage the optics of one of their star hosts caught in the fallout of a criminal investigation. Sunny wasn't just any TV personality. She was a former prosecutor, a woman who had built her entire career on legal integrity and unwavering principles.
Well, for me, the two moments are connected in a couple of ways, but I decided to become a prosecutor because I saw my uncle in front of me. And I saw that he didn't seem to matter to the police. He didn't seem to matter to prosecutors.
But now, her own husband was under indictment, and Sunny found herself trapped in a nightmare, forced to defend her reputation while the world watched, waiting for her next move. Social media was relentless. Speculation spiraled out of control. Conspiracy theories ran wild. Some users were convinced Sunny had to be in on it, throwing out baseless claims that she should be investigated too. Hashtags demanding her immediate firing began trending, their toxic energy poisoning public opinion. Sure, many loyal fans stood by her, but the critics? Oh, they were loud. So loud that even the show's producers started to waver. People who knew Sunny personally swore by her strength. She wasn't one to back down, whether breaking down complex legal cases or passionately debating morality on live TV. But the walls were closing in. The pressure wasn't just mounting, it was suffocating. Producers grew anxious. Would celebrity guests refuse to appear beside her? Would interviews derail if personal questions about her husband overshadowed the show's focus? The very thought made them uneasy. Suddenly, Sunny wasn't just navigating public scrutiny, she was fighting to keep her seat at the table. Sunny Hostin didn't hesitate to set the record straight. She publicly declared that she had zero involvement in her husband's business dealings. But that wasn't enough to calm the storm. The network grew increasingly uneasy, fearing that the scandal swirling around Sunny could tarnish the show's credibility. The irony? Her entire appeal was built on the very credibility she earned from her solid legal background. Yet now, that same background seemed to hang in the balance. Behind closed doors, things got even messier. Reports leaked about an internal memo making the rounds, hinting at a possible temporary suspension for Sunny while the legal chaos unfolded. It wasn't official yet, but the writing was on the wall. Still, Sunny wasn't backing down. She sought counsel from her own team of attorneys, ready to fight tooth and nail to protect both her family and her hard-earned career. But no matter how careful she was, every private decision somehow ended up splashed across headlines. It was a no-win situation. If she publicly defended her husband, critics were quick to label her as complicit. But if she distanced herself, they accused her of being a hypocrite. Or worse, betraying her spouse during his darkest hour. Even die-hard fans didn't know where to stand. Should they fault her for circumstances she couldn't control? Or believe her when she swore she had no role in the alleged conspiracy? Then came the breaking point. One tense morning, the network released an official statement. Sunny would be stepping away from The View for the time being. The announcement was carefully worded, dressed up in formalities about respecting the seriousness of the legal matters. But let's be real. The message was crystal clear. The internet pounced. Headlines screamed that Sunny was canceled. Gossip blogs and news outlets spun the story like vultures circling prey. Meanwhile, her co-hosts, bombarded by reporters, kept it cold and professional. They delivered stiff, rehearsed sound bites about respecting privacy and letting the legal process play out. No heartfelt defenses, no signs of solidarity. Sunny was on her own now. Some insiders whispered that Sunny Hostin's leave from The View might be short-lived, a brief pause before things blew over, but others weren't so optimistic. Behind the scenes, there were growing fears that even more explosive details about her husband's alleged role in a sprawling racketeering scheme were about to surface. Investigators were reportedly digging into shady billing records and suspicious patient histories, painting a darker, more tangled web than anyone had imagined. On the flip side, the surgeon at the heart of this media firestorm wasn't staying quiet. He'd lawyered up, and his legal team came out swinging. They slammed the accusations as nothing more than a desperate money grab by the insurance company. According to the defense, the insurer was drowning in its own financial mess, struggling to stay afloat under mountains of payouts. Their solution? Go after doctors with high-profile connections to claw back money they'd already paid out. It was a classic case of clashing narratives. In the world of complex medical fraud, these conflicting stories weren't unusual. But this case, it was gaining serious traction, and not because of the medical details. The real reason? The surgeon's wife was Sunny Hostin, a bold, outspoken media powerhouse. That connection turned a routine legal dispute into headline news. Speculation ran wild. How much did Sunny really know? Some argued that in any marriage, a spouse might pick up on shady behavior, especially when millions are involved. Others pushed back, saying medical professionals operate in such specialized fields that family members could easily be kept in the dark. After all, not everyone understands the ins and outs of complex medical billing or financial dealings. But the public wasn't buying easy answers. The rumor mill churned non-stop. Was Sunny a victim of circumstance, or was there more to the story? The lines between guilt and innocence, awareness and ignorance were getting blurrier by the day. And with every new leak and headline, the pressure on Sunny and the network only intensified. Medical billing, insurance negotiations, and procedural justifications are complex areas, often unclear even to close family. But once the scandal broke, online chatter shifted to the surgeries in question. The lawsuit specifically cited arthroscopic procedures, minimally invasive surgeries using a small camera to diagnose or treat joint issues. These are typically safe and beneficial, but the lawsuit raised a disturbing question. Did these patients really need surgery, or were they exploited for profit and insurance payouts? The thought of patients being put under anesthesia for unnecessary procedures is chilling. Every surgery carries risks: infection, nerve damage, or even severe reactions to anesthesia. If even a few patients underwent needless operations, it would mark a serious betrayal of trust and professional ethics. However, many high-volume surgeons argue that insurance companies are notoriously hesitant to pay, even for legitimate treatments. They claim insurers often dodge payments, raising doubts about the fraud allegations. So, is this truly a case of medical fraud, or just another battle between doctors and insurance giants? Was the insurer possibly drowning in its own financial troubles, twisting standard medical practices into fraud just to dodge payouts? It wouldn't be the first time. Lawsuits over massive sums often spark these kinds of accusations. But this case had an even darker twist: the mention of phantom billing. This isn't just about unnecessary procedures, it's about charging for surgeries that never even happened. If true, that's outright fraud. If investigators dig up inconsistent patient records, suspicious billing data, or patients claiming they never received treatments they were billed for, the case could explode. But if the defense proves every procedure was real and medically necessary, the insurer's entire case could fall apart. Then there's the unsettling idea of secret financial incentives. People have long heard rumors about drug companies whining and dining doctors to push prescriptions. Even though regulations exist, it raises serious ethical concerns. Now, imagine that same shady dynamic happening with surgeries. Doctors pushing patients into operations for personal gain. That possibility is fueling public outrage. This scenario is even more alarming. Kickbacks could mean direct payments, free or discounted access to specialized equipment, or any perk that rewards doctors for pushing procedures. Even if a surgery had medical justification, if money was the real motivator, those ethical lines are completely blurred. The lawsuit's scale made it even more shocking. Rico cases don't just target isolated crimes, they focus on organized patterns of wrongdoing. The insurer claimed to uncover a massive scheme spanning numerous medical practices, hinting at serious coordination among the accused. Nearly 200 defendants were reportedly involved, suggesting a vast network comparable to corporate or criminal enterprises. Some were likely surgeons, others administrators, and some possibly third-party facilitators. But proving a conspiracy takes more than rumors. The court needs solid evidence of collaboration: documents, communications, or witness testimony. Whether that evidence exists remains to be seen. Amid the chaos, the surgeon's legal team firmly insisted their client was being unfairly singled out. The defense painted the lawsuit as a desperate move by the insurer, rumored to be struggling financially, to recover losses by blaming doctors. They argued the insurer was labeling legitimate procedures as unnecessary just to avoid paying or even reclaim funds. From this angle, it wasn't about justice, but survival. Winning in court could allow the insurer to claw back massive payouts and possibly demand extra damages. But beyond the legal fight, the emotional toll was undeniable. The accused doctor, patients, and even the insurer were all caught in a storm of uncertainty. If patients truly endured needless surgeries, the betrayal of trust would be devastating. On the other hand, if the claims were exaggerated, doctors dedicated to patient care could see their careers destroyed. And even if proven innocent, cases like this drag on for years. The legal process is grueling, demanding endless records, patient files, billing data, emails, and more. Witnesses, from patients to former employees and billing staff, could all be pulled into lengthy depositions. No one walks away from this unscathed. Every new piece of evidence or testimony had the power to shift the case, either exposing hidden truths or casting doubt on what was once accepted. The looming threat of prison under Rico laws made things even more serious. A conviction could lead to severe penalties, especially for those accused of leading or fueling fraudulent schemes. While many Rico cases end in settlements or plea deals, the fear of spending decades in prison is terrifying. Still, at this stage, no one has been proven guilty. The presumption of innocence stands. In civil Rico cases, the burden of proof is lighter, requiring only a preponderance of evidence, unlike the stricter, beyond a reasonable doubt standard in criminal cases. However, if evidence hints at intentional fraud and coordinated wrongdoing, criminal charges could follow. Civil Rico suits sometimes trigger federal investigations, turning civil matters into full-blown criminal cases with even harsher consequences. As the legal battle unfolded, the public's attention shifted to the surgeon's personal life, especially his marriage to a high-profile figure. Media outlets dug into their history, searching for signs that family members may have secretly profited or known more than they admitted. The scandal wasn't just legal anymore. It was personal. Legal experts often advise those close to a defendant to stay silent to prevent statements from being twisted in court. Yet, that silence can spark even more rumors. Some see it as quiet admission of guilt, while others view it as a smart move to avoid fueling the fire until the facts emerge in court. Balancing public image and legal strategy is no easy task. Meanwhile, the case ignited wider debates about medical ethics and the flaws in America's healthcare system. Critics point to the fee-for-service model, where doctors earn more by performing more procedures, as a setup that can encourage over-treatment. When every surgery adds to a doctor's paycheck, the temptation to recommend unnecessary procedures grows. The insurers claim that it was billed for surgeries that never happened or weren't needed taps directly into this fear. It's the darkest side of a system that may put profits over patients. Supporters of the surgeon argue that insurance companies often reject legitimate claims or deny coverage for procedures doctors deem necessary. This forces medical professionals into long battles just to get paid for valid treatments. From this perspective, the lawsuit could reflect deeper flaws in the healthcare system rather than outright fraud. Investigations like this dive deep, examining patient files, surgical reports, diagnostic images, and treatment plans to check if they follow medical standards. If many patients had minor or non-existent joint issues but still underwent arthroscopic surgery, the insurer's case would gain strength. However, if these patients truly needed treatment, the defense could be justified. Much of this will depend on expert witnesses weighing in on whether the surgeries met clinical guidelines or crossed ethical lines. The situation grows even murkier if most patients felt satisfied or believed the procedures helped them. Pain relief is subjective, and even unnecessary surgeries can sometimes ease discomfort. Sorting out truly excessive operations from borderline cases becomes a messy legal and medical challenge. On top of that, financial records will be crucial. Proving kickbacks usually means following the money trail, an investigation that could expose even more. Investigators will hunt for suspicious transactions, like repeated payments from a vendor to a doctor or unexplained transfers between parties. Patterns, such as deposits right after certain procedures, could hint at illegal activity. If the surgeon proves all billing was by the book, reimbursements were justified, and no shady money changed hands, the kickback claims could collapse. But if the insurer's forensic team uncovers evidence of a coordinated scheme, the defense could be in serious trouble. This raises a bigger question. How common are these cases? Most medical professionals follow ethical standards, focused on patient care. Yet, in such a massive system, fraud still happens. Over the years, authorities have uncovered shady clinics billing for services never performed or inflating procedure costs. Some schemes even use shell companies to hide illegal profits. Whether this case mirrors those fraud patterns or turns out baseless is still unclear. But with Rico charges in play, the stakes are sky high, painting the defendants as part of a larger criminal enterprise. If plaintiffs successfully prove a coordinated network aimed at exploiting insurance policies, the fallout could be massive. Under Rico laws, even minor participants can face harsh penalties. As the case unfolds, many are watching to see if any defendants settle or cooperate with investigators. In large cases like this, some defendants might cut deals for lighter sentences, especially if they have evidence against others. One whistleblower could flip the entire case, revealing how decisions were made and how money flowed through the system. But if no one steps forward, plaintiffs must rely on circumstantial evidence and data analysis to connect the dots. This puts immense pressure on defense attorneys who must manage media scrutiny while defending their clients and proving that billing practices were legitimate. The defense might argue that the insurer's auditing process was flawed, causing false accusations. They could also use medical guidelines to justify the procedures, claiming they were necessary. In civil RICO cases, legal motions often become fierce battlegrounds, with both sides fighting over every detail, setting the stage for a long, high-stakes legal war. Defendants may push to dismiss the case early by arguing the complaint fails to meet the legal standards for racketeering. They could also file motions to strike claims they deem too broad or lacking solid evidence. Meanwhile, plaintiffs will fight to keep the case alive, aiming for a trial or a hefty settlement. But beyond the legal battle, the human impact is undeniable. Patients treated at clinics tied to the lawsuit may now wonder if their surgeries were truly necessary. Some might fear they were used in a larger scheme, while others may believe they genuinely benefited from the care. If the surgeon had a reputation for compassion and skill, supporters might rally behind him, calling the lawsuit a misunderstanding driven by the insurer's cost-cutting tactics. Fellow doctors who respect his work could defend him, pointing to successful treatments and his dedication to underinsured patients. Still, it's important to remember that insurers aren't automatically the enemy. When the healthcare system functions properly, insurers and doctors work together to provide patients with necessary care without excessive costs. Ideally, claims are processed fairly, and payments are handled justly, a balance now shattered by this high-stakes case. Fraud allegations shatter trust between doctors and insurers, and this case was no exception. The scale of the accusations, paired with the surgeon's high-profile connections, turned it into a media sensation. Suddenly, people who usually ignored insurance lawsuits were diving into the details of arthroscopic surgeries, RICO laws, and the tense relationship between healthcare providers and insurers. For legal experts, this case became a textbook example of how RICO, originally designed to fight organized crime, can be used in modern healthcare fraud. RICO's flexibility has made it a go-to tool for tackling complex white-collar crimes involving large, coordinated networks. Some argue that applying RICO to billing disputes makes them seem more dramatic than they are, while others believe it's necessary to tackle large-scale fraud that crosses state lines and involves organized schemes. Ultimately, the plaintiffs must convincingly prove a criminal enterprise existed, with a clear pattern of racketeering and knowing involvement from each defendant. Legal experts warn that cases like this move slowly. Discovery could take years, requiring the review of thousands, if not millions, of documents, from patient records to internal emails. Endless hours of depositions will follow, involving countless parties. This legal battle is far from over. With lawyers and witnesses scattered across locations, pre-trial motions could drag this case out even longer. It's common for parties to settle when legal fees skyrocket and the risk of losing grows. A settlement might include restitution or even changes in billing practices. Still, The surgeon at the center of it all might fight to fully clear his name. Throughout the chaos, his spouse stayed silent, avoiding public statements. This silence only fueled speculation, as many expected a high-profile partner to speak out. Legally, though, staying quiet is often wise. One careless comment or inconsistency could be used in court. Plus, the spouse may not know much about the doctor's billing practices, making it risky to speak on something beyond their understanding. History shows how even well-meaning remarks can be twisted to fit a narrative. As the lawsuit dragged on, conversations about the healthcare system's integrity intensified. While fraud does happen, critics warned it shouldn't overshadow the fact that many surgeons work hard to care for patients, despite overwhelming administrative pressure. Some argued that massive lawsuits like this are essential for holding people accountable. For those involved, defendants fighting to avoid financial and legal ruin, and insurers desperate to recover huge sums, the stakes couldn't be higher. If the court sides with the plaintiffs, the defendants could face crushing financial penalties and severe reputational damage. Doctors found guilty under Rico might even lose their medical licenses. But if the defendants win, they could demand compensation for legal costs and reputational harm, putting even more pressure on the insurer's stability. As the case unfolded, details emerged about how the insurer built its case. In complex fraud investigations, insurers often use data analytics to detect unusual billing patterns or high volumes of procedures that stand out. They may also interview former employees or patients claiming misconduct. However, some of these witnesses, like disgruntled ex-staff, could have their own legal or financial motives, raising questions about credibility. Defense lawyers will likely attack witness reliability, pointing out inconsistencies or personal biases to weaken the plaintiff's case. Meanwhile, the idea that so many defendants could coordinate a single fraud scheme seems difficult to prove, adding another layer of complexity to this high-stakes legal battle. This case raises major logistical questions. Did the defendants hold meetings, exchange emails, or sign agreements detailing how the scheme would work? Rico cases rely on proving the existence of a structured, ongoing enterprise. If each defendant acted alone, it becomes harder to argue that they were part of a coordinated operation. However, if there were central figures, like a management group or key administrators, directing actions, the challenge shifts to proving the doctor knowingly participated and benefited from the fraud. One corrupt player doesn't automatically implicate the entire network without clear evidence of collaboration or shared intent. Patients who believe they were victims of this alleged scheme might file separate lawsuits, claiming they underwent unnecessary surgeries. If multiple lawsuits emerge, the legal chaos could spiral, dragging in malpractice insurers and further complicating the case. These patients could testify about physical pain, lost income during recovery, or serious complications, all due to a doctor driven by profit instead of their health. Emotional testimony like this can sway juries far more than financial evidence, making the stakes even higher for the defense. Every patient's situation is different. Many may have genuinely benefited from surgery. The tension between doctors and insurance companies is nothing new. Even without fraud, billing disputes are common. Doctors argue that insurers underpay or delay payments for legitimate services, leaving them in financial limbo. Insurers counter that they're simply controlling costs and preventing fraud. However, when suspicions arise about systematic, unnecessary procedures, it threatens the fragile balance of the entire healthcare payment system. If proven, it exposes the system's vulnerability to large-scale abuse, calling for stricter oversight. If unproven, it suggests insurers might be weaponizing legal tactics to pressure doctors into absorbing costs. Meanwhile, public curiosity grew over whether the surgeon's spouse would make a statement. A show of support might comfort fans, but could also invite backlash from those skeptical of blind loyalty amid serious allegations. In the court of public opinion, nuance is rare. People often jump to conclusions with limited facts. Ultimately, the real verdict would come from the courts, not the media. The spouse's silence likely reflected careful legal advice, as attorneys often urge families to stay quiet during ongoing litigation. Yet, whispers of a possible private settlement continued to swirl as the legal battle dragged on. Many Rico cases never reach a jury because the stakes are dangerously high for both sides. The insurer risks losing in court, which could invalidate its claims and encourage others to challenge it. Meanwhile, doctors face massive financial penalties, or worse, potential criminal charges, making settlement a safer option. Still, high-profile defendants sometimes choose trial to clear their names, especially if they believe the accusations are baseless. If settlement talks happen, they're usually kept secret. Both sides have little reason to reveal details, and agreements often include non-disclosure clauses to hide financial terms and any admissions of guilt. This secrecy only fuels public speculation. Some see it as proof of wrongdoing, while others view it as standard legal strategy. No matter the outcome, this lawsuit has exposed critical concerns in healthcare, issues of transparency, trust, and ethics. Accusations that doctors prioritized profits over patient care strike at the heart of public confidence in the medical system, raising serious questions about who we can trust with our health. When insurers are seen as scapegoating doctors, it raises doubts about whether they prioritize cost-cutting over paying legitimate claims. This tension exposes the fragile relationship between healthcare providers and insurers. The case involving the orthopedic surgeon accused of insurance fraud shows how damaging allegations alone can be, especially when repeated and amplified by media coverage. A once respected medical practice known for patient care and community trust now faces intense legal scrutiny. The complexity of this case is undeniable. A specialized field like orthopedic surgery, complicated insurance systems, and a multi-defendant lawsuit under a powerful federal statute. It's the perfect storm for headlines and public debate. Ultimately, time and evidence will decide the outcome. Both legal teams will argue their cases, comb through documents, review patient records, and likely call expert witnesses. Judges will rule on motions, and if it reaches trial, a jury could determine the verdict. Some defendants may settle, hoping to move on, while others might fight to the end to prove their innocence. Even with a settlement, larger questions about healthcare incentives and insurer accountability will linger. High-profile cases like this often spark legislative or regulatory interest, pushing for reforms in how insurers reimburse procedures and how doctors justify treatments. At the core of this issue are the patients. If even one person underwent surgery purely for financial gain, that's unacceptable. Healthcare is built on trust. Trust that doctors prioritize patient well-being, that insurers pay valid claims, and that oversight bodies catch real fraud without punishing honest professionals. When that trust breaks, the impact goes far beyond one surgeon or one insurer. It affects how we view medical advice, question the need for procedures, and manage the rising costs of care. While opinions differ on whether the allegations against the surgeon and others hold weight, most agree these claims are serious and must be thoroughly investigated. The use of Rico charges shows the plaintiffs believe they can prove a larger pattern of illegal conduct. On the other hand, the defendants' strong denials suggest they believe they're being unfairly targeted for issues beyond their control. Whatever the outcome, this case will impact reputations, finances, and potentially reshape how similar disputes are handled in the future. For now, the public can only watch and wait for the next legal update, hearing, or statement that might reveal more about what truly happened. Legal experts will analyze filings and motions, while the public pieces together information from media coverage and limited court documents. Every new detail, whether it favors the defendants or the plaintiffs, will trigger fresh speculation. The central question remains: was this a real conspiracy to boost profits through unnecessary procedures or an exaggerated claim by an insurer struggling financially? No matter the verdict, this case will be a key example in debates about insurance fraud. the use of Rico outside traditional crime, and the fragile balance between doctors' financial stability and ethical medical care. In a healthcare system as massive and complex as this, any hint of fraud, especially involving big money and multiple players, draws major attention. But just as alarming is the idea that honest doctors could be dragged into brutal legal battles by insurers looking to recoup losses. As this case unfolds, whether it ends soon or drags on, the surgeon's personal story is bound to evolve. If the surgeon is cleared of all charges, the next challenge will be rebuilding trust, winning back patients, and restoring his professional reputation. But if solid evidence proves misconduct, the fallout won't stop with him. It could trigger serious consequences for everyone involved. This case also raises important questions about how high-profile legal battles can remain fair and unbiased, especially under the intense glare of media coverage and public opinion. In the end, the truth will only come out once the legal process runs its course, shedding light on the deeper issues within modern healthcare and insurance systems. Whether this case reveals systemic fraud or a dangerous misuse of legal power. It's a powerful reminder of the fragile balance in our healthcare industry. If you found this breakdown insightful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. Stay tuned for more deep dives into the stories that matter. See you in the next one.